You know, one of the joys about unpacking and refiling all these records and the ones over there that you can't see is I've been discovering a lot of great artists and music that, frankly, I'd kind of forgot about. So in this episode, we're going to talk about a Southern California boy. He was born in San Diego and raised in Pasadena and Pomona. He started his first group, and they were heavily influenced by the then immensely popular Kingston Trio, who, interestingly enough, this guy joined in 1961. And then he went on for a solo career for many years after that. And in fact, he wrote a hit single, which became a hit 3 times. You want to find out who he is? Okay, let's drop the needle. The artist I'm going to talk about is John Stewart, a very talented folk singer, singer-songwriter, not to be confused with John Stewart, the very talented comedian and political activist. This John Stewart is a very talented singer-songwriter. He showed early talent with a guitar and banjo. In fact, when he was 10 years old, he wrote his first song called Shrunken Head Boogie. And I looked for it, but I can't find it. Stewart said that when he lived in Pasadena, he bought a ukulele, and his earliest memories of the music that really turned him on was Tex Ritter and the Sons of the Pioneer. John Stewart's professional career really started when he and 2 friends formed the Cumberland Three, and they modeled themselves after the Kingston Trio. Now, they released 3 albums, most notably Songs of the Civil War, but none of these 3 albums really caught on. And in 1961, Stewart was asked to replace Dave Guard, one of the founders of the Kingston Trio, who was leaving. The Kingston Trio were huge. They burst on the scene in 1957 with their mega gold hit, Tom Dooley, and they basically influenced every folk singer to come, from Bob Dylan to Peter, Paul, and Mary. When Dave Guard decided to leave the Kingston Trio, the other 2 members, Nick Reynolds and Bob Shane, reached out to John Stewart and said, "Hey, do you want to join?" And of course, he said yes. Reynolds, Shane, and Stewart recorded over a dozen albums as the Kingston Trio, and they took the Kingston Trio into a new direction, covering songs by up-and-coming songwriters like Gordon Lightfoot. But music changed in 1967, and the Kingston Trio disbanded. John started a solo career, recording for Columbia and touring, and over his career, he actually recorded 50-some albums. But I'm going to focus on 6 that really show the talent of this guy. In 1969, John records California Bloodlines, which is his 2nd album since he left the Kingston Trio. And it was recorded in Nashville. And it uses almost all the same musicians who had just recorded Nashville Skyline for Bob Dylan. The title track is great, as is She Believes in Me, Mother Country, and some Lonesome Picker. He followed this up in 1970 with the album called Willard. There are many great songs here, like Belly Full of Tennessee, Back in Pomona, the title song Willard, and Marshall Wind. Interesting side note, this album was produced by Peter Asher, who of course started as half of Peter and Gordon, went on to become one of the first producers for Apple Records, then followed James Taylor from Apple Records to be his producer for many years. The next year, this would be 1973, he releases his next album called The Lonesome Picker Rides Again, which interestingly enough was a comment on his previous album where he had recorded a song called The Lonesome Picker. Again, great songs like Bolinas, Just an Old Love Song, and All the Brave Horses. In 1974, he releases a live double album, The Phoenix Concerts. And really, if you're only going to listen to one John Stewart record, this would be the one to listen to. It contains all of his great songs, and he's in fine form. By 1975, he had fallen in love and decided to marry fellow folk singer Buffy Ford, and recorded albums together with her. And they stayed married until his death many years later. In 1979, John finally hits gold with his album Bombs Away, Dream Babies. This is a great record, and it yields 3 hit singles: Gold, Midnight Wind, and Lost Her in the Sun. It was co-produced by Lindsey Buckingham and features Stevie Nicks on vocals. After the success of the previous album, he decides to do a follow-up of sorts, Dream Babies Go Hollywood. But this album really didn't catch on, and although John continued to record and tour right up until his death, he never charted again. 2 other standout albums from John in this period are Canyons in the Rain and Sunstorm. It's worth your while to check them out. Oh yeah, about that hit single that I mentioned in the introduction, John wrote it before he left the Kingston Trio, and he actually recorded it in 1971 on the Lonesome Picker album. But by then, it had already been a monster hit single in 1967 for the Monkees. Then 12 years later, the Canadian singer Anne Murray released a country version of it, which became a hit again. And then in 2001, Smash Mouth had a hit with the same song in the movie Shrek. Okay, do you know what the song is? It's about Wake Up, Sleepy Jean. Yep, Daydream Believer was written by John Stewart all those years ago before he had left the Kingston Trio, and it became a hit 3 times. Sadly, John Stewart died at age 68 of a stroke in his beloved San Diego, where he was born. Listening to him, you hear one of the finest singer-songwriters and a true folk singer's voice. A great talent. So I'm going to go back and keep digging through these records, and I'll see what other great finds I can come up with. In the meantime, you only have one thing to do. That's keep a rockin'. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.